Hello, everybody. Hi, welcome to the stream. And I know it's early and given a very little warning, but I was given very little warning. So the choice was between canceling the stream or moving it an hour earlier. Hey, Sir Zhao Zhao, how's it going? So I decided to make the decision to do it earlier. The new video is still going to come out at 2. So that's still a thing. But I just found out yesterday that I'm going to some sort of event for work that I need to be there by 2 at the latest. So I decided to do it now so that I can be nice and prepared. Hello, Hoar and Jenga Tree 121. How's everybody doing? So for anybody who's new to the stream, this is a weekly show that I do. Unlike this week, it's typically the hour before a new Step Back video comes out, and it is a stream where I talk to the audience, talk about stuff that's going on, and have a good back and forth with everybody, so it's fun. Hello, Dodaki. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. As for the past week and such, I have been... what have I been doing? I changed up the format of my video. So this, I think I've talked about it enough times on enough platforms that everyone's probably heard about it at this point. But the next video that I have coming out, the one that comes out today, is a fairly decent upgrade in quality for the video. So I hope that you all enjoy what comes out. I'm pretty excited to see how the reception is to it. Hello, Mr. Blank. Mr. Blank. If you want to be a historian, should you take AP history classes in high school? Well, Ryan, I don't live in the United States, so I don't exactly know if that's necessary. But if I recall, AP is like advanced placement. It's like college credit courses. So I would think that if you are sufficiently interested in history, that you should probably consider taking it if you can. But it's not destiny. I imagine you could still find a way to be a successful historian without taking AP history, so you should be fine. Hello, P-Tag and Orange Gamer 42. So yeah, the format of this is I talk to you guys about stuff, and I take questions, and we discuss things and all that kind of stuff. And it is a Thursday afternoon. Hopefully I'm a little bit more salient than I feel, because I was working on next week's video script like right up until the stream started. So I was like furiously trying to type it out and get it done, because I need to get the script done today so that I can film it tomorrow. So I'm working on that, and so my brain is in this thing, and it's one of a particularly dark topic, so my brain is in sad mode. But that's how it is. Oh, so what do you guys want to know about today? There's 11 of you. What do you guys want to talk about? Oh. I mean, I can stay here. I'm required to be here for the whole hour, so I'll just find other things to. Why did you move the stream? Why do I need to move the stream? Because I don't know how much detail I can go into this, but because there's some confidentiality stuff going on. But there's an event for work that I need to go to, that I need to be downtown at 2. So that's the reason. And I found out about it yesterday. So I've got to get there. That's literally it, though. Besides, like, I can't go into more detail than that because I think that there's a confidentiality thing going on. Oh, the Swedish election will be pretty soon. What's a Swedish election look like? I haven't been following it. I don't really follow Swedish politics, but I imagine that there's, if I'm going to make a guess, that there is probably a growing fascist alt-righty type party going on in Sweden that everybody is super afraid is going to become the government. Is that anywhere close to being right? Does it ever get difficult covering subjects with dark subject matter? Do you try to pace them out a bit to stop feeling sad? So PK, these dark topics, I mean, all right, there's a couple things. So dark topics do make me a little bit, do kind of drain me a little bit. But luckily, I can take a few days to sort of recover between things. I would like to do more fun videos, or at least less sad videos. And so many times I try to space them out, but honestly, the numbers, the statistics, the analytics say that people don't watch when I make funny videos or when I make lighthearted history videos. I've tried before, and just nobody really cares. So all of my videos really need to be serious in some way or another. At least that's the way that it seems that the numbers are showing. And so very often I am choosing degrees of sadness, or how much I want to be sad versus angry, which I imagine is not great for my mental health, but it hasn't gotten to me too much yet because, you know, your vampire video was really good. Well, thank you, Jenga Tree 121. I'm glad you liked it. You're maybe one of like 4 people who watched it, so I'm very happy that those who did watch it liked it. Hey, Tristan, recently subscribed. How well do you think the Democrats perform in the congressional election? All right, let's go into these. Copy all these down. All right, so Wahe wants to know how the Democrats will perform in the congressional election. From what I can tell, given how much the momentum is sort of against Trump at the moment, I suspect that there's going to be a pretty good Democratic outcome in November. I think the Democrats are going to make gains. I mean, like, there's sort of like a law of politics in America where, like, the first that the biggest congressional majority that the president's party has is when they first get elected, and it sort of is just downhill from there. But we're not in normal politics times. So from the data, it is looking like that there's some pretty big swings happening in the United States. I would not be surprised to find out that like many of like the DSA candidates end up becoming Congress people. I think that like the Democrats are probably the biggest. Democrats are probably going to make some pretty decent gains in the next election. Probably not as much as we think, but still, they will be gains nonetheless. And they're probably like it's not so much like that's kind of like a given. It's just how big it's going to be is a good question, and also what kinds of Democrats are going to get elected. And in my mind, I think that you're going to end up having more success in the seats where you get like hard left DSA candidates that are actually campaigning on real things. And so, and they'll be for the first time probably getting a lot of seats in government. So what I would expect, it will be the biggest thing to come out of the 2018 election is it's going to be a test to see how much this like democratic socialist, how much the democratic socialist energy there is out there, and see how well it performs. And if it performs well, which I anticipate it will, that then there will be a whole lot more like socialists in the U.S. government in Congress and maybe in the Senate. I doubt, like, Senate might be a bit more difficult, but at least in the House, which will have a big impact on, first of all, Democrats who still aren't really going to toe this line of being social democrats or democratic socialists or whatever they want to call themselves, because they're not sure it's going to bring out votes. They think it might be anathema to their voting numbers. But if it shows that it's successful, then I think you might end up with a lot more Democrats not being afraid to take left-wing positions on things. And on top of that, that'll probably end up shaping who runs for president, like based on what kind of positions they take. Like, I think that, like, for example, Cory Booker, who is basically like a chameleon as far as his opinion is whatever the polls tell them they are. That, like, if Democratic socialism has some shows that it can bring out some voters, then some politicians will probably change their positions on things in order to become more electable. So I'm hoping. Yeah, Great Dutchman, you are you're not you're here early because this video started an hour early because I had to reschedule it for work. Yeah. Okay. Fairfax, do you know the channel Knowing Better? Yes, I know the channel. I haven't seen a ton of videos. I've watched a couple. I know I met Will at VidCon this year, and that's how I found out about him. Right before everything started taking off for him. So, like, I'm happy. I'm happy that he's. I'm happy that Will's had such a good couple months. Can't wait till that happens to me. But that's whatever. His videos are good. They're they're polished. They seem to be decent quality. As I said, like in I think it was like last week's stream, I fear of making a full-throated endorsement because I'm worried that that I'll find out that he secretly has some sort of horribly racist video that I haven't heard of or haven't seen. And yeah. Have you moved your desk, or do you usually film further back in the room? Yes, I actually usually film in this corner right here. I just moved my chair back and film there, and I set up my camera on this table. So that's basically what I do. I used to film my desk, but now I have more space, so I can kind of deal with that because my wife's desk used to be back here, and then we moved it around so that I could have an area to shoot. Your lavender scare video is probably one of my favorite recent YouTube videos. I knew nothing about it and I respect that you covered something like that. Fascinating and sad stuff. Well, thank you, Kagito. That was one that I cared a lot about covering. Yeah, I think that if there is one glaring hole in YouTube history world, it's LGBTQ plus history. And so even though the videos don't perform as well as others, I still really think that they're important to make, and so I make them all the time. So yeah, that's so yeah, Girthax says Knowing Better seems pretty solidly on the left, and yeah, he said that to me too. It's just like, you never know with people. Like what's it called? Just because you're left wing doesn't mean just because you're left wing doesn't mean you're exempt from possibly having oppressive worldviews. I mean, there's still tankies out there, and there's still there's still brocialists and all sorts of sexism and racism within the left movement that needs to be addressed. So being left wing is a good sign, but it's not a perfect sign. Although I'm saying this, but like the videos I've seen, I actually was pretty impressed with, and I thought they were good. And from the interactions I've had with him, he has a very high standard of research for his videos. So that is so like all indications point to yes. It's just that I don't know enough. So it's my fault, not his, possibly. Knowing better, yes. I'm not sure if knowing better wasn't a veteran. Yes, he is a veteran. Several history YouTubers are veterans, um, and he is definitely not an anarchist. That is true. Um, who are you talking about? They're talking about knowing better, the YouTube channel. Yeah, I am not. I haven't seen. I have to. Okay. Obviously, I need to watch more knowing better videos because I obviously don't know a whole lot. Um. Anyways, hey Michael Collins, how's it going? Jenga Tree 121 asks, my favorite movie of 2018. All right. First, I have to think about what movies in 2018 that I've seen that came out this year, and I'm drawing a bit of a blank. I think I've only seen one movie in 2018, which is really sad. But it's because the last time your hair looks nice. Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's very poofy today. There's only one movie in 2018 I've seen, and because when I went to see that movie, it was like $50. Like, it was super expensive to go out, and so I was just like, well, screw that. And I believe the movie that I saw was Black Panther, which turned out to be pretty good. As far as like Marvel fare goes, it was nice to see something that was a little bit different from what we were getting normally, and so it had a pretty cool story, and it was interesting to see the art in that movie. So, yeah, Black Panther is both the best and worst movie I think I've seen, because it is the only one I've seen. I didn't go to see the other Marvel movie, the Infinity War, or the Ant-Man movie. I didn't see any of those yet. I'm sitting on those. I've been told to watch the movie. Thought Slime has been insisting that I watch the movie Hereditary. I've been told that that's like this horror movie that's apparently really good, but I haven't seen it yet. I'll probably get around to seeing it sometime. Other than that, what else came out this year? I'm trying to think about movies that came out this year. Like, there wasn't really, I don't know. There's not a ton of movies. I don't see a ton of movies. Wolframium wants to know if I've seen Loving Vincent. I don't know what Loving Vincent is. Yeah, Jenga Tree. I'm so done with Marvel movies. I get that. I'm always just like, I'm done with Marvel movies too, but then, like, I don't know. Watch them eventually just to keep up on like the culture and such. Good day from Australia. It's a lot like Canada, except it's hotter. That it is. It is much hotter. Yeah, I haven't seen Ant-Man and the Wasp. Infinity War was pretty good. I have been told that, so I should probably just get to watch it. Dan, you obsessed with your thumbnails, right? Yes, I do. Hey, Tristan, I have a game where Germany successfully invades the United States. How feasible is it? Not really, especially if this is like a World War II game. Very unlikely. The United States was at the other end of an ocean and has so the United States has two things going for it. One, compared to Europe, it's on the other end of an ocean. Compared to Asia, it's on the other end of an ocean too. So World War II, it never had to do any fighting on its own soil. Second of all, they are they're a huge country. The United States is giant, and so in order, like, I feel like it would be extraordinarily difficult, if not impossible, to 100% conquer the United States. I feel like there's just too much space for any one country to do it. You'd have to like defeat. You'd have to like either do something like genocidal, like with nuclear weapons, or try to collapse the federal government. But even if that happened, I imagine there would still be a lot of resistance. So I don't imagine that. I don't imagine that the U.S. invading. I don't imagine that invading the United States would end well for anybody, because nobody has the resources to take over the third largest country on Earth, fully anyway. All right. Let's got a few more questions. All right. Are you familiar with the MOA? Yes. You're talking about the YouTube channel. I watched. The MOA did a series of videos comparing the rise of Donald Trump to like the way that pro wrestling works, and that that probably I remember it being pretty good, but I don't remember any details about it, which make me a little sad. Turning Point Fall of Liberty. I have no idea what that is. I'm sorry. But yeah, I think that Germany would not have been able to have the manpower and resources to conquer the United States. That feels like, yeah, I feel like that would not be possible. All right. All right. Girthax, do you like to play Settlers of Catan? I have a copy of Settlers of Catan, and all right, here's the thing. I don't think that I've played Settlers of Catan a lot, but I haven't played it since 2013, and I don't remember how it works. But I remember it being good. And I'm sure that if I broke open the box that I have in my living room, I would probably get like, into it. I think that it's a fun game. I like it because I was part of like a group of people in undergrad who really liked to play board games, specifically like history board games. And our go-to was Axis and Allies. And anybody who knows anything about Axis and Allies knows that that game is a freaking nightmare to play. It takes forever to set up, and each round is like hours long. And so anytime we played Axis and Allies, we would have to. That goes for us. It is earlier than usual. Yes, I have to go to work, and I have to go to work around the time that the next stream ends. So I had to do it earlier or cancel it, and so I decided earlier. So Axis and Allies is just like, if you wanted to play that game, you would basically have to set up an entire you have to make your entire night about Axis and Allies, and you'd be playing until like 4 a.m. And so it'd be a rough game to play. And if we ever want to do it, we have to make like a party out of it. And so they even made, while we were in our group, they made like a smaller version of Axis and Allies that was a World War I version, and we played that a few times, and that we liked a lot, but it still got really rough to play because the game just takes so long. The mechanics of the game just take forever. And so when we got Settlers of Catan, where it's a game that you can play in 20 minutes, we ended up having a lot more board game nights that were like casual. Like we could just have a couple beers and play a few rounds of Settlers of Catan, and it was really fun. So Settlers of Catan saved that group for me, but then sadly I had to move to Ontario again, and so the group kind of died because university ended for us. So that happens. Have you played Risk? I am very sure I played Risk. I don't have many memories of it, but I don't know. I don't know if I really like it that much, but it's a fun game, I guess. All right. Where were we? So, who'd take care of things like investigating kidnapping and murders if there were no police? Or is your contention that crimes like that wouldn't take place in a socially just world? Um, honestly, you can't stop all crime and all murders, but I would think that. Phew, I would think that in such a situation, like most of those crimes aren't pursued by police officers or pursued by detectives, which I know are like a branch of the police officer. But I could see a place for such a job of people who investigate things like that. But like, yeah, I don't have all the answers for that. There's a lot of people who work in the area of trying to like reform with um, how law and dealing with antisocial behavior would work in an anarchist society. Uh, community policing, like community safety and things like that, would be like most of the functions of police could be replaced with way less hierarchical and less coercive system. Uh, like detectives and stuff, though, like solving crimes when they are not immediately solvable are not that common. And when they are, I imagine having somebody who is like, a little bit specialized in such a job would not be an issue. I don't see anything bad about that. I don't really, I don't, I'd be a little, I don't know. I imagine that maybe that I'm missing something, but I think that I don't see it as terrible. Um, okay. I do think, though, that in a socially just world, there would be way fewer of those things, but to eliminate completely would be naive. Uh, it's like when the Chinese government says that China has no homosexuals and no mental illness. It's like, yeah, okay, okay, bud. Um, all right. What's your favorite country flag? Hmm, country flag. I mean, the old USSR flag is pretty neat. I love that symbol, but that's I feel like a lot of people might have gone down the path towards communism because they thought the symbol looked cool and kind of went from there. Um, as far as other countries that would stick out, oh boy, what's the old Benin flag? Is that the one with the like AK-47s on it? South Africa's flag, the whole Y thing is actually pretty cool. Um, I also think that I like the Mexican flag a lot. Actually, I'm gonna go with the Mexican flag. Um, oh, Mozambique is the one with AK-47s on it. Yeah, the Welsh flag's pretty fun too, with the dragon. Yeah. Okay. We've got, Dan wants to know Yugo nostalgia thoughts. Like people who have nostalgia for Yugoslavia. I could understand a little bit of that. Like in this like post-communist Eastern Bloc, um, things are pretty bad because capitalism sucks, and they're experiencing the full brunt of it, mixed with like this kind of kleptocracy that happened as all the state's resources were stolen up by rich people. So yeah, things suck quite a bit in these like former communist countries, and the breakup of Yugoslavia almost instantly led to like attempted genocide and some bloody wars. And so I can understand the nostalgia. I I don't know if I can like get fully behind like, oh yeah, means nostalgia for the Yugo car. Oh, I have no idea. I don't know anything about cars. Sorry. All right. Moving on. You should look up the Swedish election. It's on September 9th. Okie dokie. I'm sure I'll hear about it. Um, all right. Let's go. Let's add on some things. Wolframium, what do you think about the Nicaraguan riots? Who do you support? I'm conflicted on the Nicaraguan riots. I think that there's no side of the Nicaraguan tension going on right now that doesn't have bad stuff going on in it. I understand the opposition to Manuel Ortega right now because he's made friends with all sorts of right wing capitalists and he's been being bad, or he's been abandoning the cause. But I also know that there's a lot of U.S. interests in in the whole situation with in the opposition to Ortega as well. And I know that overthrowing Ortega's government will probably not result in a left-wing government, let's be honest. And so it's a little I mean, it could actually. I just I don't have high hopes because what's it called? People will just intervene in the election. So I think that I find it very difficult to come down on the side of that. Oh man. Okay. Have you seen Strucci's video on parasocial relationships? I just found her channel and it's fantastic. I've never heard of Strucci P. Keg. I will write that name down as one to check out later. Coca-Cola had the right to import the Yugo car into America. Okay, that is a strange one. Okay. Have you seen Strucci's video on parasocial relationships? Although, the idea of a video on parasocial relationships, I feel like I've seen a really good one, but it's not coming to mind at the moment. Dan, has anybody addressed the sexism in pro wrestling? I have no idea. I don't follow pro wrestling at all. Freemium. Oh, board games. Have you ever played something of the Munchkin saga? Yes, I played Munchkins. I like Munchkins. It's a fun game. I haven't played it in a very long time because I don't own it, and I don't really have a board game group. But yeah, I remember Munchkins being a pretty fun game. It's pretty goofy, but I think that I think it's pretty fun. All right. Thoughts on the prison strikes and their list of demands? I haven't heard the details on that, and I'm really sorry, but I know that there's. I imagine that since prisoners are given horrific treatment, that even anything that would improve their life would be pretty good. The way that we treat prisoners, especially in North America, is brutal, and I really wish that we would, not do that. Okay. Have you been following Gamescom? Jengachu121 asks. I have not. I don't know what's going on with that. Okay. Luke Lee. My thoughts on the prison strikes are that prisoners should have the right to vote. I mean, yeah, they're citizens. I don't know. I don't see why they would have an issue. Would an anarchist society require some kind of constitution? Maybe. The thing about a lot of anarchist society ideas is that they would be hyper-local and they would be specialized for, the situation that people live in. So, in a lot of cases, if a community feels like it needs to have a constitution, then they should get one. But if they don't feel like they need one, then they shouldn't have one. It would be really dependent upon the situation that they're in. I think that the best thing about anarchism is that it would be way more flexible for different contexts and different types of people. All right. I'm getting swept up in the conversation going on. 255 AD. Suppose something killed everyone in the old world in 1491. Do you think Native Americans would eventually figure out how to do high technology in spite of all their disadvantages? What were those disadvantages? Are you talking about stuff like, because like a lot of the stuff that people reference as disadvantages are typically things that come from like Jared Diamond's work, and Jared Diamond was super duper wrong about a lot of things. I think that Cogito has pointed out a lot of the things that, like, yeah, there was a lot of advanced high technology in the Americas before the Columbian Exchange, and that since if you follow like the social network model of technological development, which I did a video about when I talk about guns. So if you watch my video from last week, you can see a bit more on this, that technology develops in this non-linear, very chaotic fashion in all sorts of directions at once. And so if you lost all of the old world technology, then things would probably have changed. And also, I think that you could probably also say that, like, just because people like have passed on, that like their society still exists, like, or their remnants still exist. So a lot of the things that were invented could be rediscovered later. I don't know. It would be pretty impossible to imagine what a society, what a world like where the old world gets wiped out through like disease or something, and only the Americas remain. Fast forward a few centuries, what would that look like? And there's a whole lot to consider because, like, you know, that would be like one of the largest massacres in human history. Actually, would be the largest mass dying on Earth of humans, anyway, because that would be something like at that time. I think that would have been something like 80% of the species would have died, which would have a huge impact on the way the world worked. There'd be a severe like cooling effect from the reforestation of a lot of the old world continents. There would just be so much losses of resources and culture that, like, it would be really tough to imagine what the future would look like. Really, it's pretty. It's difficult to imagine. I imagine that though, a more talented alternate history person would probably have a pretty cool scenario to talk about what the future that would look like. But as far as sheer technology goes, I mean, technology was already developing in Mesoamerica. I'm sure if you like study enough, you find out that there was actually this class of these like priest philosophers that were kind of practicing. There's these like priest philosophers in like the Aztec society that were practicing already a basic form of science, and there was some ideas that that people in Mesoamerica were very much on the brink of some pretty big breakthroughs when it comes to like industrial technology, not like steam power and stuff like that, but on like discovering some real metallurgy and things like that. And so there could have been some major developments, even given just a little bit of time, because the Aztecs specifically were really on the up and up when the conquistadors showed up, and so that would have been really interesting to see that go forward. As far as like there can be all sorts of stuff that would be interesting to think through. What were those priests called? Cogito might know. If Cogito's still in the chat, Cogito, could you fill Fedora in on what those priests were called? I'd have to go into like a book or something to find it, I think. Actually, let me see if I can Google it real quick. Aztec philosopher priests. Yeah, I'm not getting it right away. It's not immediately coming up, but get into it. I can probably figure it out a little bit later, and it would be dead air for me to just go and Google something for everybody. So if Kogito knows off the top of his head, no pressure. But I'll take a looky loo. Ooh, I think I remember where I think I can find out. I'll start answering the next question while I look up. Okay. We're gonna hang out while I Google this question because I think that they were interesting. All right. Do. This is like this is death, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. I'll have to find out a little bit later. Anyways, punching Nazis is anpac praxis. Yes, because you're not killing them. Akira-san wants to know your thoughts on basic income or deduction of the working week. I would prefer the reduction of the working week, but yeah, basic income is going to be probably be quite a. It'll be like a band-aid, and I think that it has issues that we need to address before we can. Like, it's not like a panacea that's going to fix all of our problems. We really need to think a little bit more nuanced about how basic income would be rolled out and how it would work as a service that is tied directly to the state, and what it means when what it means for workers' rights when basic income gives you like an incentive, gives the bosses an incentive to not care about firing people. What happens to organized labor? What happens to the right to strike? These kinds of things. These kinds of things are sort of a thing to discuss, and also what does that mean for like living expenses and kind of places where you live and everything like that. Michael Collins, are nuclear weapons obsolete? They're not obsolete. I think that nuclear weapons are pretty useful for things like as a geopolitical action. Like as far as as a way to if you have nuclear weapons, it basically makes you impossible to be invaded. It would take a lot of pressure off people with mental health problems and neurological disorders. Yeah, there are a lot of things that would be interesting, that would be like positive things, but they would have a lot of there'd be a lot of issues with where to go from like for what it means for the power of the worker to strike, which is something that's been on my mind for a little bit. Yeah, okay. Think I yeah, there's actually some serious issues with disability theory and UBI that I don't know the details of, but would be really interesting to hash out. Okay. The Girthax. Could you do a step-back video on the history of Dagestan or the region of that region of Russia in general? It's underrated history in that region. Well, okay. Let's talk about that. So I'm going to give you guys a link in the chat. So I started up this new page, this new place where you can submit video. You can submit video ideas and you can vote on video subjects. And so that gives me a way to kind of test out what people are into as far as subjects go. And I'm going to start putting ones that people send me in there. And on top of that, you can add things yourself. So I'm going to just link it in the chat. And so if you like any of them, you can vote on things, or you can go for that. And that's what I'll use. Yeah. What's your favorite non-Western language? Well, Ina, I would probably say that is Arabic. I am very interested in learning Arabic at some point in my life. It's an extraordinarily difficult language to pick up, but it's something that I've been really wanting to learn at some point. Hindi is also high on the list. So if I could like magically have 2 languages imported into my brain, I would love to learn Arabic and Hindi. Sam Pam, what do you think about what's happening in South Africa? Watch the 3 Arrows video. That's pretty much where I stand. Night Watchers Pet, have you tried? Oh, it's Night Watchers, this person from the Discord. Have you tried Elder Sign? It's more horror, but tons of fun. Elder Sign, is that a board game? Or is it a movie? It sounds like a board game. So you can go with that. I haven't played it. If I haven't even heard of it, then obviously. But you can message me with that if you think it's like a really cool thing to check out. All right. Sir Zhao Zhao, difficult question. Regardless of which party becomes the biggest, they'd still have form a coalition, which would be very difficult though. Dan, would you vote for Corbyn? Yes. Sir Zhao Zhao, what is a parasocial relationship? Parasocial relationship is the sort of relationship that is built between 2 people where one side has way more invested than the other. In many ways, is... Okay, 3 Arrows didn't make the video, was mirroring somebody else. Well, watch that mirror. So the... Oh, man. So parasocial relationships are when the relationship between 2 people is not equal in a large way. For example, I, Step Back, have... my Step Back channel has 39,000 subscribers, which is more people than I could ever possibly know in my life. Which means that there are a lot of people who have a relationship with me through my work that I don't have with them. And part of trying to develop especially a YouTuber personality is to foster that, is to develop, to make people feel like they know you when they don't. Because people want to feel like, when they watch a video, they want to think like they're hanging out with a friend. And it's part of the creation process. And I know that like fostering it feels a little gross, so I don't really try to do it all that much, but I try my best to make the parasocial relationship as little as social as possible and as equitable as I can. It's difficult. It's impossible for me to have a conversation with all 39, almost 40,000 of my subscribers. But I feel like I'm one of the more accessible YouTubers in this space, considering the size of the channel. So I try my best. But I do know that if you create stuff and you put yourself out there, there are going to be people who feel like they have a closer relationship with you than you feel you have with them. And it's a weird thing to have happen. It's kind of like a thing that exists in the mass media situation that we all have to think about. And that's why I always have to be careful about like things I say, because like I don't know how people are going to interpret things I say. When there's almost 40,000 people out there, when you say something in public, you're almost like guaranteed for whatever you say to be misinterpreted, because all sorts of people out there will there's like 40,000 brains that are all taking in the same information and putting it through a different lens. And so when you're in that kind of situation, you have to think about the relationships you have with people, and you have to be very intentional about things. And sometimes when celebrities done goof pretty bad, it's because they don't realize how much the things they say impact others. And as like a Z-list celebrity, I guess now I have to be fairly cognizant of the things that I say in public, because there are people who are emotionally invested in my work, and I don't want to ruin that for them. Yeah. Shannon Strucci apparently did a video on it. I think I've seen it, and if it is the one that I'm thinking of, I think it'd be really good. All right. Okay. Do you much about? Oh wait, Jengatry. So, do you know about disability theory? Jengatry. One of my patrons and a friend of mine from my school where I did my master's, my grad school stuff, Kirsten Cianor, works with. She works with disability theory, and she's pretty like when I was in grad school, even when I was running Step Back, I also had a radio show in which I interviewed graduate students about their research, and I interviewed several people about disability theory, and I think I learned quite a bit. Now, I'm not an expert on disability theory, but I think that the sheer concept that we live in the issue is not that people have disabilities, it's that the world doesn't make itself work for them, and that we need to work things around to figure it out. And also the whole idea of like scanning media and looking at things and realizing the way that we portray disability is problematic at best. All right. Waldo Hanse von Rensburg wants to know how I'm doing today. I'm doing very well. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Did you hear about the Neanderthal hybrid that was found recently? I have not, Dirtfax. Anarcho-pacifists advocate solutions that aren't physical violence, such as shaming, sometimes bullying, for dealing with Nazis. But in my opinion, it's still a form of mental violence. What do you think? Oh, whoa. I think that somebody pointed out that the way of the pacifist, at least the pacifist who realizes that we live in the real world, is to minimize violence, because violence, when you enter it into a situation, when you enter violence into an equation, you instantly are going to advocate or give power to the most authoritarian parts of your side and your enemies. And so in cases like revolutions and such like that, you're going to end up with the most authoritarian people taking charge. That's not good. And I would think that when it comes to like attacking with bullying and things like that, I do think that that is part of that whole discourse. So I do think that you need to definitely don't not do these things, but you have to realize that when you do it, you need to be intentional. Violence for violence's sake, even if it's like shaming and bullying and stuff like that, needs to be done to serve a greater good that that should be done as little as possible in order, but still be effective. Because if you start enjoying it, that's when you've lost. Have you read David Graeber's Bullshit Jobs? I have not read that book, but I've heard a bit about it, and I seem pretty happy with it. What news agency is good to follow for more international news? I'm currently following Reuters, but want to start following one more. Try Al Jazeera. With the recent Nazi rallies happening in the U.S., are any of you familiar with the former leader of the American Nazi Party named Frank Collins? I am not. Is shitposting revolutionary? Nope, it's downright reactionary. Could you get 25580 wants to know, could I get Lindsay Ellis All right, let's got some more questions. I'm starting to run out of time, so I'm starting to try to get these things faster. All right. Could you get Lindsay Ellis to do a subscriber appreciation stream? I could try, but because I had dinner with Lindsay Ellis once. It was fun, and it would be really cool to have her come on the stream. Although it doesn't really feel like her scene. So you know, I'm not sure if it's a thing that she would be interested in participating in. I'm sorry, Brendan. Maximilian Gale, what is your opinion on the Strasser brothers? I don't really know too much about Strasserism. I know I keep getting asked about that kind of stuff, but or the whole egoist thing, but I don't know. Are you telling us to empower the Pope by any means necessary? I have no idea what that means. Do you think that Trump's immigration policies will reduce the workforce to create a sufficient labor shortage of unskilled and low-willed laborers to increase their bargaining power? I mean, kind of. It'll definitely increase the demand for low-skilled labor, but is that going to reduce? Is that going to create like low? Is that going to create like high-wage, low-paying jobs? Like the jobs that are going to disappear are ones that like citizens won't want to do anyway. And on top of that, the economic fallout of pissing off the entire world and being a giant jerk and missing out on the talented diversity that comes with immigration, like you're going to pay way more than you're going to save it for. All right. What do you think when America would be like if the British won the American Revolution? That's a good question. I'm not exactly sure. That's a huge thing to think about. Please do me a favor and Google translate my name for Afrikaans. You always butcher my name and surname. I'm sorry. You're telling. All right. What's your family origin? I would guess Irish. Well, we're Framium. Yeah. So I am a mix of a whole bunch of things. The largest part of it would be Quebecois. I'm about a quarter Quebecois. And then I believe I had relatives. I've had, going back to like great-grandparents level, I had great-grandparents who immigrated to Canada from Germany and Switzerland. And I had, on my dad's side, I had relatives, I think from Ireland, and I think from England, and I think from Scotland, but I'm not 100% sure. That side, there's not as much records, so I don't really know. All right, we are really running out of time. It could be fun for H-Bomb to join the subscriber appreciation stream. Yeah, actually, he's probably high on my list of people that I should bring out. Zhao Zhao, Blitzenbohr. There might have been a second American Revolution once the American Empire abolished slavery. Yeah, that would have been a thing. What is the alternative to having prisons? The idea in 90 seconds or less. Yeah, prisons would be something that I am. If you could abolish them, you would have to have more like what would be called reconciliation type of things, where you and the person who committed said crime and the victims of the crime would come together and have a discussion about what the reconciliation would be between the two, and come to a set of agreements that then that person has to go through. That might mean service. That might mean financial recompense. That might mean there wouldn't really be money, but they'd find some way to figure out what they'll put together. So that would be. Did the History of Rome guy respond to your email? No, he hasn't. All right. When will the next stream be? The next stream will be on Sunday. So yeah, to wrap up, since I gotta go. Yeah. Next, this Sunday, we're going to have American Johnson coming on Subscriber Appreciation Day from the channel Non-Compete. We're going to have a lot of fun with that. It's going to be early in the morning, so definitely check your listings to see what time it's at, because it's not at the normal time for Subscriber Appreciation Day. And the new video on this channel comes out in an hour, so be sure to be around for that. Confirmed a date yet, but I'm I'm thinking it might be Tuesday night, but I haven't confirmed that yet. We'll see. So, other than that, you guys have an amazing few days, and I'll see you on Sunday. Oh yeah, the stream with American Johnson's like at 9 a.m. on Sunday, so you might have to wake up early, or if you're in Europe, it'll be like early in the afternoon. So, anyways, have a good one, everybody.